In our modern world, we're primarily concerned with success. There are a lot of ways that we define success. For example, how many zeros in your bank account, what your job is going to be once you graduate and enter the workforce, the car that you drive, the latest phone that just came out on the market, how big your house is, and all these superficial things, which are not entirely superficial. Like, it's not like our fault that we believe that those things are the way we measure our position in comparison to our friends or our colleagues. But there's something really interesting that I just learned, which is that in his book, Slow Productivity, the author and professor of computer science at Georgetown University called Newport, he mentioned at the early parts of the book that the reason why we happen to be this way is because of the classic industrial revolution. Before the advent of modern day industry, like factories, and how we produce so many of our current products in life that we usually encounter, like almost all of it is produced in the factory. Most things are just things that you have because everyone can have it because of the industrial revolution, right? It doesn't matter how rich you are. We all have the same selections of phones that we can buy, right? There's like a range of what, $100, like $2,000. But that's it. That's the only option. I mean, there's a lot of it, a couple dozen of models of phones or cars that we can buy. But that's the only option. Everything is standardized. And the way that we measure the output in a world like this, in an industry where you are accounted for by how much you're able to produce. So there's this meme that I saw in pictures where it says that basically the question is, why are you so confused about the value in life, your place in life, and the meaning of life? It's very obvious. It's to generate as much value as possible to the shareholders. And it's kind of like funny. It's like one of those things that young people, especially young people, like to poke about, capitalism, late stage capitalism in our current society. We live in a society. But if you think about it, like, we're all shareholders. Like, the fact that you have a certain amount of money, right, either from your job or because someone gave it to you, you also buy these products, which means that you are contributing to this whole ecosystem, like this system of the way we, how we create everything, how we measure things, right? Like the concept of the more things you buy, the more you're happy. Like, there's always this solution X to problem Y. Like, that's how we think in the modern world. And this is not the case until 200 years ago. As in, I don't know, for like a better example, rural China, 300 years ago, do nothing about this. All they know is that they wake up, go to the field, they work for like 8 to 10 hours, and then go back home and they sleep. There's no like, okay, how do I maximize the land yield of every hectare of my farm? Like, they don't do that. Or right now I have 3 pigs and 5 cows and 2 sheep. Okay, I'm gonna save up money, and then next year we're gonna have this. The KPI for next year is that I'm gonna go to the market and then buy more animals, or I'm gonna like go to the bank and take loans. I mean, of course, there's no bank at that time. But we always think there's like a future-oriented way, because we live in a world where everything is measured by numbers, everything is standardized, everything is quantifiable metric. And of course, we're miserable because of that. Like, it's not necessarily that there's something wrong with it. I'm not necessarily in the camp of people who believe that everything's just wrong and we should just tear it all down. I think there is undoubtedly certain benefits of living in a society like this, because it doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter if you are the king of France in 16th century, France. But if you have diarrhea, you could die, like literally, or a very simple infection and then you're dead because of a wound, and they don't have antibiotics, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's also this idea that a lot of the reason why we're not that happy is because of comparison. Like I mentioned earlier, if you live in a world where there's only a few dozen options in everything that you have, and due to the laws of scarcity, right, there's only a few ways to stand out from that, right? The most obvious is just to stop playing this game and just go to Alaska and just live in the wilderness. But no one does that, right? Or become a monk in a monastery. You forgo all of these worldly pleasures and pursue something that is greater than you, whatever that means, however you define it. But another way you could do that is to strive to buy the most expensive or the most unique thing. That's like just like the polar opposite of, like, if I can't have it all, I have a few that no one else can have. And that's another way of doing that. But whichever path you take, it comes down to comparison. Like, the way if you compare yourself to, there's this saying that there's always someone that's above you. So it doesn't matter who your comparison peer groups are. Naturally, as humans, we're never satisfied. We always want things to be faster, cheaper, better. And because of that comparison, it's truly because you're not willing to confront this finitude as a human being. There's this line that I just read from David Hume. He was a Scottish philosopher. He wrote on his book, A Treatise of Human Nature. He said that it is not a great disproportion between ourselves and others which produces envy, but on the contrary, a proximity. A common soldier bears no envy for his general compared to what he will feel for his surgeon or corporal, nor does an eminent writer meet with as much jealousy in common enemies to scribblers as an authors that more nearly approach him. A great disproportion cuts off the relation and either keeps us from comparing ourselves with what is remote from us, or diminishes the effects of the comparison. So basically what he's saying is that we only compare to people who we think are our equal. We don't care how rich, certain Hollywood artist is. We don't care. But if that person is someone that you went to English class with in high school, the amount of this like burden of like, oh, I'm a failure, is so much higher. The reason for that is because you think that I could have done it had I put, let's say, the same effort or had the same opportunity, or if I was as lucky. But that's like really stupid way to compare your life, because we're all different. We all have different backgrounds, and so the problem is that we keep distancing ourselves from our goal, because you always move the goalpost and you always compare yourself. And you're not willing to confront your finitude, and you live in a world where you can't be measured just by like characteristics. You can't just say I'm a good person. You have to be like, I'm a good person and I make $100,000 a year or something like. And there's this idea that in Stoicism there's this idea where I think Seneca is the one who wrote it. He said that our life is like a dog being tied to a moving carriage, and so whenever the carriage goes, you have to go with it, right? Because you're tied to it. But we can choose to be willing to be carried away by the carriage, or to struggle and angry and be bitter and resentful whenever you are dragged. It's basically like there's nothing you can do about it, but at least you get to choose how you interpret the events. Like you already crashed, the plane already crashed on an island. We're all just trying to find a way to live together, survive on the island. And that's like a good way to see it, is that even people who you think that are the top, people who seems to have it all together, one day their pet will die, or their relative, someone they love, will get sick, and they themselves will die, and we're all gonna die, and no one's gonna remember us in the next 50 years from now, or 100 years from now. I saw this YouTube video a couple of weeks ago. There's a family in Pakistan. For the past 20 years, they have been creating bricks, like for bricklayer, for building a house, in the middle of the desert, getting paid like $5 a day, but they work for like 10 hours. The reason why they do that is because many years ago, I think one of the brothers got sick, and they have to pay a hospital bill. It's like a loan shark system. It's basically modern day slavery, and it's just like these people, they would trade their limbs to be in your position right now. If you can listen and understand what I'm saying, and you're watching this video, the odds that it's kind of, I don't want to be like patronizing all these, like you have to be grateful and all these things. Like I know that doesn't actually mean anything, right? Because yeah, but I still have this college debt that I have to pay. I still have to go to school. I still have to finish my homework. I still have to clean the dishes. I guess the point here is just to understand that we're all in this together. Again, back to the beginning part. We're all in this together, and I believe that, myself included, especially, this is like a note to myself, that a lot of the problems that happens, like this sort of stressful feeling, and for lack of a better term, being depressed, being sad, is self-imposed. It's not like I'm currently in the middle of a situation where I can't get out of like this slavery thing in Pakistan. I'm not like that. And so I'm just in a situation where I self-impose upon myself this mental thing where what I'm doing is just to make myself think that, oh, I have to do this and do that, get good grades, get a good job, make a lot of money, that kind of thing. You don't actually have to do that. Like, just because again, you don't know what's gonna happen in the future. Like I could die tomorrow. I could die even before this video is published. And of course, it's a bad way to argue about, like, predict about life, obviously, because life expectancy is 70 plus in a lot of countries in the world. But at the same time, we also only live in the present. There's no such thing as the future, right? There's this idea. I also got it from Oliver Berkman. Basically, the works of the philosopher Martin Heidegger in his book on being and time. It's really hard to read. But there's this concept of that we are time. Being a human, it's not like we're outside of time, right? And then we try to create this schedule and to try to accomplish this thing before we're 3 years old or 4 years old, whatever is your goal in life. Next month I'm going to do this. Next week I'm going to do this. We can't really do that. It's just a thought. A plan is just a thought. It's just the things that you hope will happen. There is no way you can make that reality, because the only thing that you can work on is the present. Take talk like just right now, and you will always be here. The past is something you can learn from, but you can't change, and the future hasn't happened yet. And so, what's the point of oh no, this is gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Like, no amount of worrying will change the future, right? And no amount of guilt will change the past. And so, it's just this. Like, you might as well, do your math homework. I wouldn't say like happy and excited to do math homework because it's boring, obviously. But just do it. You don't have to be like, oh, why do I have to do homework? Oh, the teachers, the professor sucks. I have to study the lectures on my own by, I don't know, asking ChatGPT or something. You can just do it. Because you have to do it anyway. A week from now, whatever is the deadline of that homework. You still have to do it anyway. So why not just do that? Pick your pen and paper and just start doing one question a day. Right? Whatever it is that you have to do. However hard it might be, it's probably not going to be as hard as that dude and his family in Pakistan for the past 20 years, toiling under the sun for like 10 hours. Their skins are all burned and they don't have shoes, by the way. And it's really hot. They have this like underground kiln, like an oven, because you have to heat up the brick, obviously, right? It's made of clay. It's still watery. You have to reduce the water content for it to be a brick. And there's no safety equipment whatsoever. They use this long metal stick and they just put everything into the ground. And there are cases throughout Pakistan where people slip and they went into the furnace down and they're dead. Like, and there's nothing you can do. It's like 3 or 4 meters thick. You know, what's that? I don't know, 10, 15 feet down in the ground. So if you fell, good luck. You're probably dead. And like your life is probably not that hard. Again, not to belittle how bad your life could be. Like you could probably have lost your relative a couple of days ago. But the world moves on. There's this saying that I got from Scott Galloway. He's a professor at NYU Stern. He said that, you know, when his mom died, he was like devastated, right? As everyone would be. But he knew that he has to keep moving on. And he allowed himself to grieve for like 3 months or something. But after that, you know, you must move on. Because there will be more obstacles. And there will be more people who will die. And so, if you get stuck with the past, however bad that is, if you still care about, you know, being better, then you can't, you know, get stuck in that ordeal. And so you get to decide what counts as progress. In a moment like that, maybe only 1 minute. You could literally only focus on this 1 minute because you're overwhelmed with all these emotions and, you know, problems of life. But maybe you can start thinking an hour in the future, 10 hours, a day, a week. That's all you can care about. You know, I don't know about, you know, this certain problem in other side of the world where we're being bombarded by social media, but there's a war in some other parts of the world. But you live like tens of thousands of miles or kilometers away from that problem, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so you don't have to care about that. You are not obliged to care about that. You're not even obliged to care about what happens. This is going to sound harsh to your friends or your neighbor, because if your life is that hard, then you have all of the permission to not care about that for the next 1 week, for the next 1 month. Just focus on yourself, focus on the present, right? And you get to decide what counts. Maybe waking up earlier, or treating yourself an ice cream because you clean your room or read 1 page of a book. It's gonna sound very cheesy, self-help thing, but it actually works. And I know it firsthand because I've been procrastinating my whole life to this day, and I would not claim that I've solved that problem. But the biggest reason why I've been able to make progress, what I would say is progress clearly, you know, compared to myself in the past, is just one principle, which is that what is one very insanely small thing that I can do that would make me better than I was like a week, a month, a year ago. And if you stack them up, they compound at the end. It's a very long tail distribution, but they will compound at the end. And so technically everyone can be successful. Everyone can be a millionaire or a billionaire with 6-pack abs and a private jet, a huge mansion. But it's going to take you like 5 lifetimes. So what's the secret that these billionaires can do, or these millionaires can do, or just someone who lives a good life in general? What's their secret that, you know, they can compress all of that work in just like this 1 lifetime? And the answer is just consistency and being better, little by little, however small that might seem. Because we also know from science that motivation comes from action, not from thinking or planning about what you're about to do. Like taking the first step already cuts down a huge section of the decision tree. Because you're always this potential of doing things. Right? You know, today I could just eat ice cream and watch Netflix all day, or I could clean my room and watch Netflix while eating ice cream, or clean my room and read 1 page, and then eat ice cream and watch Netflix. There's like always this branch of possibility. And so the hard thing is actually to start, right? But once you start, you're in one different branch of the timeline, and there's just like you can imagine like this one dot of in a graph like this. The direction is already on a completely different heading, right? If you've seen this image of like a couple of different degrees of a heading of an airplane would get them to a different location, different airport, hundreds of miles away, right? It's actually true in life. The problem is that there's this latent potential. There's this delay, delaying gratification. Why is it called delaying gratification? Is because you have to delay it to, all the good things in life come from compound interest. That's what Naval Ravikant say. He's a very successful entrepreneur, an investor, and it's true, right? All the good things in life takes time, long time, like at least a year, like getting in shape, or I don't know, being smarter. Like a lot of curriculums are like a semester long, it's like 6 to 8 months. Nothing is as simple as an hour or a day. But getting started is. And if you don't stop, you're going to get there anyway. There's also this meme that I saw on Pinterest. So what if it's going to take a year? The year will pass anyway. Right? And so, yeah, I think that's the point of this video. Like the idea of our finitude, the idea that we live in a world where we're measured by all these things, numbers and standards that are imposed upon us. But you get to decide what your progress is. You get to decide what actually matters. And all these comparisons, the only reason why you want to compare is because you're comparing to someone that you think are your equals. But that's not really true, because there are 8 billion people, and every single one of us are different from each other. And so the only person that you can consider your adversary, or someone that you can compare yourself with, is someone that is really close to you, that you know really well. And that's you, yourself, in the past. That's the only standard comparison that matters. And so, yeah, that's the end of this video.